I've often been asked who is the best magician in the world, and that's something you can't possibly answer. There's so many types of magic and so many types of magicians. It's like comparing them with musicians. Who is the best musician? You can only say who is the best violinist or the best clarinetist. The same with magic. We have illusions, we have close-up magicians, we have card magicians, we have people who produce birds and so on, and close-up. So you can't compare one with the other. That was asked by another man called John Fisher. John was a brilliant television producer. In fact, he was the head of light entertainment at Thames Television. And not only was he the chief at Thames Television, but he was also a member of the Magic Circle, therefore a keen magician, not a performing magician, but he'd written a number of books on magic. He was a historian and was an expert on the history of magic. And when he was asked the same question, he also said about comparing it to musicians. Remember, a musician can only play a tune that's been written by somebody else. You have to have a composer, you have to have a writer, you have to have an arranger, finally a conductor and other instruments to accompany you. And the same thing happened with magic. Somebody has to invent a trick, somebody has to make it, somebody has to sell it, somebody has to buy it and practice it, and practice forever before he becomes any good, he or she becomes any good. John Fisher had been the producer at the BBC that showed the Paul Daniels series. And in fact, they were very successful, and the show was awarded a very rare privilege. It was the Golden Rose of Montreux, a great television prize, and that's what they got through John Fisher's production and Paul Daniels' personality, of course. And that's when John had this dream of bringing top magicians together for one series. He was very selective and finished up with 56 performers. We thought that is quite suitable because a pack of cards has 52 cards, of course, and there are 4 jokers usually, so it makes 56. And that brings me to the fact that he produced a show called The Best of Magic. It was 1990, 30 years ago, and they wanted to produce a leaflet to advertise the show to other channels, and I was very proud at the time that they asked my son Marvin to produce that leaflet. They also wanted a brochure and a poster, and he had the idea of combining all that. So let me show you what the leaflet looked like. It says The Best of Magic. It has Thames Television logo, it has Marvin's Magic logo, and a little heading. Now, I had nothing to do with that. In fact, I didn't know that they'd asked Marvin to do that until afterwards, and I was so proud that they would choose him to do that. And then they wanted a brochure where they could talk about magic and some optical illusions, and they came up with this. So the same leaflet became the brochure. For instance, on this one, where you see different greens, there's a dark green and a light green, and they're actually identical in their coloring, there's hue. This looks like a staircase that never ends. It goes up and up and up, or if you like, down and down and down. In fact, I once had a painting from the famous artist M.C. Escher. I was very privileged to meet him when we had a chat show in Holland, and he was quite old at the time. He was in his early 70s, and he wasn't very communicative, but he's world famous, and I have all his books where he draws water running uphill, and as I showed you, stairs that never end, and so on. He's a very unusual artist. I got hold of a print of these stairs, and I always had the idea that wouldn't it be wonderful if you could animate that? So I put some little monks on the stairs, and got an artist to help me make a video of these monks going up the stairs, unending, going up and up and up, and if you like, going down and down and down. They never get there. And I put some music to it, and I'll show you an example which I demonstrated on a children's television show many, many years ago.
One of the other masters of the optical illusion that the Show Me Show is very keen on, I think you are too, is the artist M.C. Escher. And here's one of his most famous drawings. It's of monks walking up a staircase. And as you can see, the staircase seems to come round on itself and just goes on and on forever.
That's right, John. I was very privileged to meet Escher myself. And I've always admired this particular drawing. And I've always thought it'd be marvellous if, as a magician, I could actually animate it to move like this. As you can see now, if you follow any one of these monks walking up the stairs, just follow him round, you'll find that he never actually gets to the top. They just keep walking and walking and walking, higher and higher, which obviously isn't a possibility. So once again, we have an illusion, this time created by an artist.
Well, that was a show called The Show Me Show, which was for young people. And I'm talking about optical illusions which were put into this brochure. For instance, this is a classical one where you see two lines and one looks much longer than the other, but actually they're identical in length. It's only because of the arrows that make it look shorter and longer like that. The same as this one, the two lines which are absolutely parallel, they look curved because of the background, and so on. Anyway, this leaflet became a brochure with some optical illusion in it, and then when you open it up fully, it actually gives you the list of all the people who appeared in the show in alphabetical order, but put on playing cards. And as you can see, hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades. There are 12 cards in the pack, but we added a joker, and we brought it up to 14, so that we have 4 lots of 14, that's 56 performers, including the presenters. And here is the best part of it. When you open up the brochure, it becomes a poster. And that poster has all the performers on it in alphabetical order, spread like cards, as you can see. But there's a little more subtle hidden things in it. For instance, the 3 presenters, which were Geoffrey Durham, Anthea Turner, and Arturo Bruchetti, a well-known Italian quick change artist and magician, brilliant man. The 3 of them presented the shows. They were the compares. Then we have the performers in alphabetical order, starting with A's and B. Well, B, of course, there's me, that's Burglas. And if you wanted to know anything about me, all you had to do is to see what card I was. And I think I was a 9 of hearts. And if you then look under hearts, 9 of hearts, it'll give you some background information about the performer. We also had 4 ladies, which was quite unusual in those days, 4 lady performers, including Anthea Turner, appearing on a queen. And again, any queen that you see in the pack has a lady on it. We also had 4 comedy magicians. We put them on the jokers. And sadly, some of our magicians that we had lost, famous people like Houdini and David Nixon and Robert Harbin and so on, they're on sepia covers. So there's sort of different things hidden within the pack, and everybody loved it. And I know many magicians framed these and put them up in their rooms. And at the Magic Circle, I framed one of these, open like that, and I had another frame next to it to show the biography of the various performers. Also, the poster, of course, was decorated with typical magical apparatus like the cups and balls, the Chinese rings, the magic wand, with Thames Television logo and Marvin's Magic logo on the other side. And then we had a poll from the audiences to say their favorite magicians, and they were put on the back of the brochure, and I must say I was very privileged that I was one of them. We had a man called Hans Moretti that I'm going to talk about at length at another time, a very close friend of mine, also my close friend Harry Blackstone, the son of a famous magician from the 30s and 40s and 50s, Harry Blackstone Sr., the Pendragons, a wonderful illusion act, faster than anybody else, and myself with my table levitation, and the three presenters were in the back. And down here are the credits for the crew, wardrobe, makeup, lighting, the floor manager and so on. And the researcher for the whole program was a young lady called Mandy Nixon, the daughter of the famous David Nixon. And of course, the most complicated part of this whole leaflet was to try and get all these magicians to come up with a short biography. Of course, none of them could do that. Everyone had a long story to tell. And it took real skill, which was done by a couple called Charles and Regina Reynolds, very well known in the magic world. In fact, he was a magic producer and an associate together with Doug Henning, who had the only musical show on Broadway, the only magic musical show on Broadway. And Charles Reynolds was literally his right-hand man. So they had the job of contacting all these magicians from all around the world and then condense their biographies to a small profile, as you see here. And the only credit they got was just here in the corner, saying Charles and Regina Reynolds created the profiles. But their greatest achievement was to put a book together with magic posters. They called it 100 Years of Magic Posters. Of course, this is a very well-known poster of David Devant, whose catchphrase was, "It's all done by kindness." He was so respected that he was the Magic Circle's first president. In fact, we have a room named after him, the David Devant room, and this photograph of him looking at the audience and just produced a rabbit out of a hat is one of the best known posters we have of him. This is Harry Blackstone Sr., the father of my good friend Harry Blackstone Jr. He spent his life debunking psychics and natural medicines and all kinds of beliefs. He was a magician at first and became an astrologist. I knew him extremely well, and he never looked like that, but it's a great poster. And this one is Mark Wilson with his wife Nanny, taken in front of the Magic Castle in Hollywood. He was the president of the American Academy of Magical Arts for many years. But of course, the most famous of all these magicians is still Houdini. He took his name from a French magician called Robert Houdin and just added the I to make it Houdini. But his most famous trick was the underwater torture chamber. And when we built the Magic Circle, I decided to have a Houdini exhibition in one of the cabinets, and I had a designer build me a half-size model of the water torture. And here's a poster of Houdini inside his invention, the water torture. And he's offering $1,000 if anyone can prove that he can get any air whilst upside down in this tank. The tank originally was 60 inches, which is only 5 foot, because he was quite a short man. The model that I had made for our exhibition is exactly half size, 30 inches. And when you press a button outside the cabinet, bubbles start coming up through the water. different color changes, and the legs move as if he's struggling to trying to get out. And then you press another button, and I have a recording of his voice coming through an old phonograph.
Ladies and gentlemen, I take great pleasure in introducing my latest invention, the walkie-talkie. Harry Houdini, October the 29th, 1914, Flatbush, New York.
And it's probably the most popular exhibit at the Magic Circle. Come and see it.